It's James Madison here with the AlchemyPhyt podcast show, whatever we're calling it. What do we
I
call
like it. Show.
it? Show, yeah, because we're on YouTube. So we took a bit of a break last week, and we're back. So
We know you missed us.
yes, I think that maybe, but we got microphones now, so we're trying
Oh yeah.
we're elevating our game, and we're not shy about it.
Oh yeah,
I think,
we're newer to the podcast world. I mean, I
yeah,
feel like everybody is kind of hopping on that trend. I mean, I
yeah,
just see so many more podcasts out, which I think is great because I think it's a chance for you to really get to know the people that, you might admire or take a lot of, knowledge and wisdom from just to kind of see who they are as a person,
hmm,
talking conversation. And so, yeah, I know I've dabbled in it. I know you had
yeah,
before
I
we
have,
started doing this. And so, yeah, doing that with, having a space, having good lighting, having microphones, like it's just all part of it to make it the best experience for you guys watching. And so, yeah, we'll be tweaking
oh
certain
yeah,
things. I mean, when you guys first ever watched our videos, we were just in our office,
yeah,
just at my desk, just doing it that way, and then
hmm,
transitioned to different areas. And now we are blessed enough to get to use this entire media room. So you'll be
yeah.
seeing some upgrades from us for sure.
Yeah,
But
slowly but
James,
sure.
why don't you tell them what we're going to be talking about today?
Well, today we're going to be doing something different. We're still going to talk about wellness and fitness, but we're going to shift our attention to the world of professional wrestling. The reason B is because on Friday, or not actually Saturday, on Valentine's Day, the WWE is coming to Lubbock, and they're going to do their first live event in 7 years here in Lubbock, Texas. I was there for the last one, but it's been far too long since they have been to Lubbock. And I've been a professional wrestling fan basically my entire life since the mid 80s. I was born in 84. And those were some of my first memories was watching professional wrestling with my family. Madison over here, though, she is very new to the
Yep.
world of professional wrestling. So as she's gotten to know me, I how I'm trying to remember now. How exactly did wrestling come up with us?
Come up, it was
Yeah.
just something that you had talked about when you started telling me about how you got introduced really like into fitness and
Yeah.
into the gym and stuff, and how you were inspired by like the wrestlers that you saw in their physique, their athletic ability,
Yes.
their discipline. I mean, because those, especially because there is an age gap between us, and so especially because I'm not trying to be like back in your day, but when you first started watching wrestling, it was predominantly men, and it was
Yes.
predominantly very big men.
Yeah.
So that to any kid, I feel like is going to look like a superhero, larger than life type of figure. And so I feel like that, influenced a lot of people like in your generation of just wanting to be strong, wanting to be capable, wanting to
Yes.
have that sort of, confidence, because they do. Like every professional wrestler has an insane confidence level.
Yes.
Most of them cocky, which I feel like has to be in the wrestling world, or
Yeah.
you're just going to get laughed at. But
Fair to say.
so yeah, so that was something that you told me about because also your whole family is into it. So like both of his
Yeah.
sisters enjoy it. I know your mom has talked about it because his mom has some favorites, and I agree with her taste. And your dad also watches it. So for you, it was like you had told me that it was something you were interested, but it was something like that your family encouraged too. Like y'all had gone to wrestling events, y'all had
Yeah.
been in that realm a few times, and so that's when I knew that okay, this wasn't like how we had talked about like me with like football. Like
Yeah.
my team is Notre Dame because of my family, because
Hmm.
of that involvement of generations. And so y'all's kind of became this single unit, like, oh, the Reese family likes professional wrestling.
Well,
So that's where I recognized that you had
yeah.
first done it, of realizing that you were into it and it became your kind of motivation to go in fitness and wellness. And then it was also like something you and your family could enjoy.
It had a part in it. I think it's safe to say, like, my mom is probably out of all of my family, like the one that's she's very aware of who everyone is, but she doesn't watch it actively. My dad and myself were the ones who watched it back in the day because the legend goes. My mom and dad went to a professional wrestling match here in Lubbock at the old Civic Auditorium here in Lubbock.
I miss that thing.
And my mom was like 8 months, 7 months pregnant with me. I was about ready to
Right.
pop out. And they went to go watch Ric Flair versus Kerry Von Erich, which you don't know who Kerry Von Erich is.
Nope.
Okay,
I know
so
Ric Flair though.
okay, she knows Ric Flair.
Yeah.
So the Von Erich family is a very famous wrestling family based out of Texas. And back in the 80s, There was probably about 84, 85, 83. In that point in time before that was based on territories.
Hmm.
So in Texas, there was several territories throughout the area. So this area was run by the Funk family, who was a very famous pro wrestling band. They were based out of Amarillo. And then you had some other wrestling leagues that were based out of Houston, San Antonio. Dallas was World Class Championship Wrestling. So there was just so many different wrestling leagues out there. So all these wrestlers from across the world had places to go.
Yeah.
They would go from one territory to the other. So they'll be here in the Amarillo, Dallas area, Texas area for maybe 3, 4 months. They'll
Hmm.
run an angle program, and then they say, "All right, well, we're gonna go to Florida now. We're gonna go to
Yeah.
Florida wrestling. Go to maybe take a trip. Mid South wrestling was another popular um, territory at the time. New York was the home base for the WWE, which back
Yeah.
then was known as the WWF. Then it
Yeah.
became the WWF. That's what I grew up with. And in my culture, Latino culture, like pro wrestling is a very popular thing to do.
Right.
So
Well,
or
and continue
watch.
with what you're saying about your mom and dad
Oh
being at the
yeah.
wrestling.
So they go to the wrestling match, I believe, with one of my tias and and her husband at the time, and my mom to this day, she says, yeah, when we were there, I was you were me, I was kicking the inside of her stomach. I could hear it.
Active.
I was
Yeah.
that active, and we all laugh about it because it's basically, well, that's when we knew that
Yeah.
our son was going to be into wrestling, and so in this day and age, I don't have children. You don't have children. What do
Thank
we
you, Lord.
commonly see? What do we commonly see people do when they want to give to pacify the crying child?
You usually give them
A phone or a
a
tablet.
phone or a tablet, some sort
Okay.
of video to watch. Yeah.
Yeah. Mine was professional wrestling. So when
Mm.
I was upset as a child, they would put me in front of a TV with wrestling on, and that was it. I was hooked. And growing up in the mid 80s was that's when professional wrestling took a whole new level of just popularity due to, like Hulk Hogan,
Oh yeah.
Macho Man Randy Savage, Andre the Giant. There's so many different ones. And when you're 2 to 3 years old and you're watching that, you're seeing it's larger than life. It was so larger than life. And, you know, the characters, the colors, just the action.
Yeah.
Because I also grew up in the era of Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, 80s action movies. So it all kind of fit together.
Yeah.
And it was a big prominent part of my childhood. And like most things, I think
Right.
people tend to they'll get away from it. I never got away from it.
Yeah.
I've been watching it, yeah, pretty much since I was born. I
And
haven't
so,
stopped.
since you've been watching that since you were born, something that you have like cultivated
Yeah,
this very important aspect of your life, how has that in being able to see it from so young to now, here you are at 41, how has that influenced the way that you have like lived your life in terms of like fitness and wellness and like how you looked and took care of yourself?
I'd say it's been pretty significant with a lot of things.
What do you feel like you learned the most?
What I learned the most was from a more creative standpoint. I think how to tell stories and how to relate. Because I like to write. I used to write when I was a little kid, and so what I learned from professional wrestling was how to develop characters, how to develop plots,
Yeah.
conflict, and stuff like that, good versus evil, and so forth. Because in a lot of major professional wrestling storylines, they do draw from the Bible. They draw from all sorts of things
Yeah.
to tell the story. Cain versus Abel is a real popular one that they've you know drawn from for years because you do have family members that do. They all go the Von Erichs I mentioned. You got the Hart family, which is one of my favorite families in pro wrestling families, and they'll do that. And
Hmm.
so that's how you hook the audience with
Yeah.
something they can relate to because yes, the world of professional wrestling is incredibly larger than life, but like movies and songs and TV shows, they have conflicts on there that hey, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
I've wanted to kick my family member, my cousin's ass here and there. I'm going to show them stuff like that,
Yeah.
or revenge, love triangles. One of my favorite professional wrestling angles ever. And I know as I'm talking, I'm sort of giving you the history of professional wrestling here
Yeah.
because you just got into this,
Yeah.
and
I've been
so
like 6, 7 months
yeah,
new into it.
and And so one of the biggest professional wrestling angles ever for the WWE was the Mega Powers Explode. That was Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, and Miss Elizabeth. To me, that's one of the best storylines, if not the best storyline they've ever done, because it just invoked so many real human emotions of jealousy, of lust, of betrayal, all these different things. And so when I'm watching this as a little 3-year old, you know, it it imprints on you.
Yeah, it has an impact for
It has an
sure.
impact on you. So, as I got older though, towards my teenage years, I was still watching it, and that's when the WWE and pro wrestling in general just took more, especially of the late '90s, more edgier product,
Yeah.
which was perfect because when you're 12 years old, you're 13 years old. We all go through our hormones. Like our hormones are changing, puberty hits, and so I'm not necessarily more interested in, oh yeah, the old stuff I was when I was a little kid.
Yeah.
I'm like, who is she?
Yeah. You're like, I'm in love with her.
Yeah, I'm in love with her.
Yeah.
So it really at that point helped me guide. Man, I really hadn't thought about this, but like it helped guide me through my puberty
Yeah.
in a weird way,
And
I
so then
guess.
how did that influence like your fitness aspect of your life?
The fitness aspect of my life, you you want to these wrestlers, these performers are some of the best athletes that you'll ever come across. Um, when you watch them perform on television, they're doing things that most people can't do.
Yeah. But how did it
Oh,
influence
how did it influence
you?
me? It influenced
I know
me.
y'all have heard me try to ask him
Yeah,
this
I'm
question
getting there. I'm getting
3
there.
times.
It influenced me
How did it
by
influence
hitting the gym.
you?
Hitting the
Yeah.
gym.
Because did
I
you want to look like them or have that sort of like essence
Yeah,
of like strength and
I
power?
think the strength and power, but it was also just the confidence. You said it
Yeah.
earlier. There was a cockiness and there's a confidence. I'm wearing a Stone Cold Steve Austin T-shirt right now. So what gravitated me towards that character, towards Stone Cold Steve Austin, was the swagger, was the confidence, was the nonsense mentality.
He's got a mouth on him for sure.
And
Yeah.
so I thought I see a lot of myself in that guy. And Stone Cold Steve Austin was in great shape, but he wasn't the biggest guy in professional wrestling. You had characters like Kane and The Undertaker and The Big Show who were like 7 feet tall, giants among men. I was 5'9", 5'10", maybe a little shorter than that when I was in junior high, but I still thought I could be like those guys. I can train like them. And when I think I got my first weight set when I was around 14 years old. So seeing them on television definitely had a part in me wanting to get into better shape and staying in better shape.
Yeah.
I
And so
finally
did
answered the
you
question.
yeah, it's like a little bit, but it's
Yeah,
also but it's just one of those things that I know that you're passionate about it, so
yeah.
I know like you can go and like talk about it and stuff
Hmm.
like that. And so I'm just find those chances to take and redirect you back just to be like, I know and that's great. I want to hear about it,
Yeah.
but we still of course want to know about like the fitness and the wellness aspect of it all
Yes.
because I mean that's the
That's what
point
we
of
do.
our business. But
Yeah.
so is there any exercise or like workout routine or anything that you took from one of the wrestlers that you still implement to this day?
Oof. The intensity in the YouTube era, a lot of the wrestlers have come out and had their own shows. So like Sheamus,
Yeah, I know
we
that
saw him on
one.
Hot
I
Ones.
know
We
that
saw him
one.
on Hot Ones recently. He has a tremendous show on YouTube where he works out with all sorts of professional wrestlers and athletes, and they go through a workout for around 15, 30 minutes. And if you're doing cardio or something like that and you're stretching, it's a great show to watch
Yeah.
because every wrestler has a different regimen
Oh, of
because it's
course.
different body types. So
Yeah.
you got certain wrestlers like that Oba Femi. He's one of the newest professional wrestlers out there on the main
He's
roster.
massive.
Massive individual.
Oh my
His
gosh.
background is
He
in shock, but
is
I think he was at the
insanely
yeah,
athletic.
he's insanely athletic. He's a giant though.
Hmm.
And so I remember when Sheamus and him worked out, a lot of what his workouts based upon were his back. And so for the past few years myself, I remember watching the episode and like, okay, he's doing some good, solid back exercises. Let's put that back. Let's pun intended. Let's put that in my routine.
Yeah.
Let's add that in my routine. One of the other episodes I saw was CM Punk, which Punk is older. He's in his 40s,
Way to
much
go,
like myself.
Punk.
He's a little older than
We'll
me.
be seeing him Saturday, right?
I hope. I hope.
Yeah.
His exercise with Sheamus was more functional.
Which I feel
You
like
know,
for him, because like you said, he is 40, like
yeah,
in his 40s, he has to stay agile.
you have
He
to.
has to stay like mobile and
Yeah.
very easily dynamic and things like that,
Hmm.
especially for his age.
And it also goes their exercise routine that a lot of them do, that I see them do, it relates to one, just their figure of who they are as a person.
Right.
Because there's some wrestlers like Otis, we were watching him the other day. That's a massive dude.
Yeah,
That
he's a
is
big
that's a
boy.
tank.
Oh my
He's an
gosh.
athletic
Yeah.
tank, but that's a dude who definitely you can tell he powerlifts. He
Yeah.
powerlifts, but he can move. So
Yes.
you're not going to see a guy his size, maybe for the most part, and I could be assuming, you're not going to be seeing him doing some Pilates or gymnastics.
Right.
And
Stuff that's
then
like very slow,
yes,
dynamic, stretching,
because
static
yeah,
sort of
because I can't
movements.
do some of the weight that some of these guys are moving. John Cena, who's one of the most famous professional wrestlers ever,
Yep.
that dude,
Great dude.
if you look into his background, bodybuilder, power lifter. So his physique was very unique in his presentation, but
Hmm.
also just how he moved. He is legitimately one of the strongest professional wrestlers ever. So back in college, when we had YouTube, when we had, the infancy of smartphones, we were able as fans to access and see what they did outside the ring in terms of their fitness. Whereas in
Yeah.
the 90s and 80s, you really didn't see that. You
Right.
see it on television and little, vignettes and stuff.
Yeah.
But in the 2000s is when it broke open. So seeing like Cena, what he did with the weight he was moving, I'll say it right now, I'm never going to be able to move the weight that John Cena was able to do in his 20s and 30s. I aspired to try to move that weight, but genetics. I don't
Yeah.
have the same genetics and build that he does. We're around the same height, but he was doing, he was a football player, D3
Yeah, I was
football
like, I
player.
was also gonna say I knew that he played
Yeah.
football, and so you just also come from just different backgrounds
Yeah.
of it, where he's used to pushing this weight
Yeah.
since a very young age.
Absolutely. He's used to pushing that weight. So, like, for instance, you're a volleyball player, and Charlotte Flair, I believe, played volleyball. And so her regimen, her physique, her just overall, like, goes back to what they used to do.
Hmm.
So, she's this very tall, powerful, just all around
She's a
character.
powerhouse.
And,
I love it, and
you
I
know,
love her outfits. She comes in
yo,
there,
yo,
and it is just electric
yeah.
when she walks out. I love her costumes. I love her attitude. She's insanely athletic, especially from going through her knee surgery
Hmm.
and coming back the way she did and bedazzling her knee brace was such a killer move. I thought I was like mad respect, man.
So, like I mentioned that, y'all were both collegiate athletes, and I could be wrong on Charlotte Flair. I think she was a collegiate athlete, but like we've talked about it off camera and so forth. Like you're in your background when you first saw professional wrestling, when you saw it on my phone or on my television. Well, first of all, let's get back to that. What was your first experience? Like, what did you know of professional wrestling
Mine,
before you met me?
it was kind of like in and out of like when I was a kid. Like I knew Andre the Giant because I knew of him from Princess Bride.
Yeah,
So when he was in that, my dad thought he was really cool.
yeah,
And my dad was like, he's huge.
yeah,
And I remember him saying that at one point he had come here to Lubbock and was in
yeah.
the mall. And my dad was like, I had never felt smaller in my
Really?
life. He apparently like went walking around like the South Plains Mall or something. And my dad was like absolutely amazed. And so I knew about him, but I didn't know he was a professional wrestler until like my
Yeah,
dad told me later. And
that
I
is
was like,
awesome. I didn't
oh,
know that.
okay. I was like, "Oh, okay, whatever." And I had always seen I'm gonna be 100% like I usually am, but I had always seen how people dogged on it and
Yeah.
how people made fun
Oh
of
yeah.
it. And especially on like shows I was watching, like on Disney Channel or something like that, they would always like make a knock about professional wrestling and stuff like that. And so I grew up kind of being like, okay, well, it's just not something I'm into because I was extremely sports forward and I was very tunnel vision when it came to that. So
Hmm.
I didn't really watch anything else but like Animal Planet, Disney Channel, and Nickelodeon. Those are my big three.
Yeah.
And if you weren't a Fast and Furious movie or a Twilight movie, I didn't care. I really didn't.
Yeah.
And so those are the two franchises I stuck with because everything else was revolving around my sport. And so I was always looking for new workout routines and things like that. And I saw where Stone Cold did his show at like his ranch
Yeah.
and had people competing against each other to see who was like the strongest. And I thought he was hilarious. And I thought he was badass. I was
Yeah.
like, this dude is, like you said earlier, like no nonsense.
He's no
And
nonsense.
so I would watch his show, and my mom would come in sometimes and be like, What is this?" And I had, again, I didn't know that he was a professional wrestler. I just knew this is a really cool
Yeah.
dude who has a good grasp of discipline, of athleticism, of grit,
Hmm.
and he is very motivating. And so I was like, I like this. And so I watched his show for a little bit until, they have to put in like the reality theatrics and stuff in
Yeah.
it and the drama and this and that. But so those are like my only two kind of
Hmm.
pillars, I guess I would say, of remembering that. And then you would see, stuff like Nacho Libre
Yeah.
and, stuff how they would portray it like in movies and TV shows where they would be like wrestlers, but
Yeah.
I didn't know about WWE like
Hmm.
at all because it was just something I didn't grow up in. I mean, my brothers were not into WWE. I think maybe my middle brother might have watched like a few or something like with his buddies, but like no, my brothers were into sports, was like baseball, or they were into Star Wars, or they were into anime and video games
Yeah.
and all that. So they were very much in that realm of boyhood
Yeah.
and it was not professional wrestling and or John Wayne movie. And so if it wasn't those, I really didn't know about it. And so it really wasn't until you had talked to me about it when we had first met and you had like a shirt on. I think it was a CM Punk shirt.
Yeah.
And I was like, "What is that?" And you had told me, you're like, "Oh, it's a professional wrestler." And I was like,
Yeah.
"You're into professional wrestling?"
Yeah. She
Because I was
was.
one of those people that was like, "What?" Because I didn't understand it. I
Yeah.
did not understand the
Most
hype
people don't.
because, like I said, I had the stereotypical knowledge of it being kind of a joke, kind of people laughing at it. And
Hmm.
so I was like, okay, well, it's not really my thing. It's not really what I'm into. I didn't knock it or anything like that. I was just like, that's just not mine. But
Yeah.
okay, good for you. I thought professional wrestling was for kids. I was like,
Yeah.
so this is a grown adult. It's like, I love it. And so it was super new for me. And then it wasn't until like I met your sisters and like Jamie, like his younger sister, especially, that was like, oh my gosh, have you seen, like, she would list like Roman
Oh
Reigns and
yeah.
stuff like that. And I was like,
That's her dude.
what are you talking about? And I would be like, what? And she would be like, yeah, we went and saw like this wrestling match. And then Nicole would talk about the Bella twins.
Yeah.
And then your dad would talk about it. And then your mom talked about Roman Reigns. And I was like, okay, so this is a family thing.
Yeah.
And so then it was kind of, you would show me a little bit like here and there, or your dad would have it on when we would be
Yeah.
hosting a workout class or something like that. And I'd be like, man, y'all really like this franchise. I was like,
Yeah.
this is wild. And so then I started asking, questions to you of like, okay, so what do you mean it's a storyline? And kind of learning like bits and pieces about it, because once I actually like sat and like watched a match, when it was, because I know it was definitely when we were in Hobbs and you were leading the workout class and I was over, doing like some filming and like some work stuff on my phone. I looked up at the TV and I saw, I don't even remember what match it was. It might have been Rhea Ripley, maybe,
Yeah.
because I love her. Oh my gosh.
I do
Because
too.
also I had been told by his sister Jamie, she was like, oh my gosh, you would love Rhea Ripley. You would love her. You remind me of her the way you carry yourself. Like, I think you would love her. And again, I was like, who? What are you talking about? Who is this?
When I first met you, I thought you kind of did the head tilt thing and do, and I thought you I thought you looked like Rhea Ripley when she first came out in
Yeah. And
2018.
that's what your sister had told
Yeah.
me. And I was like, who? And then they showed me who she was. And I was like, I've totally seen her on like some commercials, like for wrestling or something like
Hmm.
that. I was like, I know who this chick is. I was like, okay, okay. And so y'all had a match with, I'm pretty sure it was her,
Yeah.
because I saw her walk out and I was like, oh my gosh, this is sick.
Yeah.
I was like, she looks incredible. I was
Yeah.
like, she's built. I was like, she has,
Strong.
all the black, the leather, the spikes. Like, she has the black lipstick, the hair. Like, she looks like unstoppable.
Yep.
And I thought it was incredible. And then seeing them get in the ring, because to me, like, watching men do it was not as like
Yeah.
big, because I've been into UFC, I'd been into MMA, like I'd watch boxing. Like I was into, I'm used to seeing grown men, hit on each other. Had brothers and stuff like that, but seeing it with women and seeing how athletic they were caught my attention first
Yeah.
because like you said, me coming from an athletic background, I noticed those things. I noticed how she would tuck and roll out of certain things, which is how we did it in volleyball to not really injure ourselves or to be
Mhm.
able to go at a very fast speed, hit the floor and roll out of it so you weren't injured.
Yeah.
And granted, I still managed to injure myself doing that because there's such thing as doing it too hard, but I noticed things like that. I noticed how they move their body in a certain way to get out of a hold or to move around. Or I noticed how they would choreograph it so well that you knew you were gonna. She knew she was gonna pick this girl up and throw her in the way that she would, bend at her knees, the way she would center herself. Like Rhea, whoever I don't remember who she was fighting, but I remember watching Rhea and watching how she would, flip these girls or hit them or go through the ropes
Mhm.
or flip over or something like that. And I was like that takes so much athletic ability. Like, you can't just come in here and do that.
Can't.
You have to make sure that you are doing a lot of dynamic warm ups, a lot of static stretching, a lot of mobility exercises, that you are maintaining good functional strength. And I just noticed all these things started firing off and I was watching her.
Mhm.
And when she picked up a girl like fully on her shoulders, I was like, this is
Yeah.
so cool. I was like, what do you mean? This is amazing. Because especially seeing that from a like woman standpoint,
Mhm.
especially a strong woman, because I had
Yeah.
always really prided myself on making sure I was one of the strongest people on any team I was on,
Yeah.
of making sure that I was very equipped to handle any sort of weight. And I always liked being really strong, but especially, and many women can attest to this, it's hard. It's hard to be the strong woman because there's a societal stigma that comes with that of looking manly and you want to make sure that you still look like a girl, like you don't want to put on too much muscle. Like if I had a nickel for every time I've heard that, but
You have a shitload of
I
nickels.
loved it though because I love being strong. I
Yeah.
love seeing the indentions in my arms. I like seeing my triceps. It was something that my dad encouraged, and he would
Mhm.
go and feel on my arms and be like, there it is, there's your muscle, and he'd be really proud of me in that. And I was always, making jokes, and I would lift my teammates like as a joke. I'd give them piggyback rides. If we were having a hard workout, I would go and lift them
Yeah.
and I'd be, let's do this. And so I really liked that aspect. And so when I saw her do that and saw how accepted she was being strong and looking so strong, because Rhea looks amazing. She's incredible. And finding
She's
out that we
amazing.
are
Awesome.
pretty much same age, borderline
Yeah.
same height, and I was like, this is awesome to see her be strong and be praised for it and her own it. That was
Yeah.
the biggest thing, was she owned her strength. She owned who she was. She wasn't out here, pleasing people and, wearing a certain color or a certain outfit to like please them. Like she was herself. And especially watching more about her and how she talked about how she's normally very introverted,
Mhm.
but when she puts on her Rhea stuff, she is a totally different
Yeah.
beast. And I could relate to that so much because I was very different on and off the court.
Mhm.
I was very focused all the time because honestly, I idolized volleyball for the majority of my life. So if you weren't a volleyball, I really didn't care. Or if you were not one of my teammates or another athlete, I really didn't know who you were because I was so tunnel vision. And so outside of sports, yeah, I was very, kind of calm. I was more level headed. I kept to myself a lot. I didn't go out because I was at home training. I was either working out, I was either hitting the ball up on the roof for 3 hours a day after training.
Yeah.
Like I was hardly ever out with my friends until I started to get older. And my parents and like people were like, you still need to go
There's a
experience a friend
balance.
group.
There's a big time
But
balance.
I
Yeah.
wasn't. But when I was on the court, I would have full makeup on. I would make sure my hair was done the way I wanted to. I made sure that my uniform was put on the way I wanted to. I had a ritual for everything
Yeah.
because my mom had this saying of look good, feel good, do good.
Yeah.
And so I always
I
had
like
this
that.
routine that I made sure my hair was washed that day. I made sure I had one of the freshmen that was braiding my hair. I made sure that my uniform was good to go, that I was wearing my favorite spandex, the good knee pads that were just washed. I made sure I had my ankle bracelets on. I made sure my knee tape was on. And it was on 20 minutes before I stepped on the court. Like I had all these things. And then it was like as soon as everything was on, I was a different person. I was
Yeah.
so out there. I was very outspoken. I screamed my head off that I damaged my vocal cords. Like I altered my voice because of this sport.
Yeah.
And because there's many clippings that if you ever look up, um, my name and like volleyball, you'll see a lot of pictures and I'm screaming my head off. And I look like I look kind of psychotic now looking back at it because I would see certain people's face after I would scream. And so they would be like, "Oh my gosh," but I loved it. I
Yeah.
loved what I was doing. To me, it's still the best sport in the world, and I enjoyed every moment of it, all the pain, all the triumphs, and everything in between. And so when I saw Rhea doing that and how she was playing with the crowd, how she was screaming, she was doing this
Yeah.
persona, I was like, I get that.
Mhm.
I was like, I completely get that because people liked watching me. People said that I was very entertaining to watch during games because they all said, we can tell that you care and that you love what you're doing. And so, yeah, I would have friends and, teachers and people come watch the games knowing that I was there because they were like, you're just so much fun to watch. Because I would talk to the refs. I wasn't always nice, but as long as you made the right call, I was pretty good. Or like the line judges, I would, talk to them and, I'd mess with the other players and stuff like that, on the opposing teams. But I'd always, again, on the court, I was
Mhm.
different. But
Yeah.
after, like if I had, hit some girl in the face with a ball, I would, in the moment, I'd be like, that's right. Like, get out of my way. Don't let it happen again. But like after the game, I'd be like, hey, like, I know I got you. Are you okay? And so it was I could see where she would switch. And
Mhm.
so seeing Rhea like that really made me have much more of an appreciation and understanding because I was like, I know what she's feeling.
It clicked with you.
It
Yeah.
was, yeah, easily because I knew how much fun she was having. She was just electric. She was playing with the crowd, and I loved doing that. Like the bigger the game, the more fun I had. The bigger the
Yeah.
crowd, the more fun I
You draw
had.
from it.
So most people when they got really nervous, like if it was like an easy win game, I almost didn't want to play because one, sometimes you play down to the level or up to whoever you're playing to, and especially if like the crowd's not there, you can make a little bit more mistakes. And so we would use those as a chance to like try out different plays and things like that, and
Yeah.
to either rest me or some of the other people to make sure we were good to go, but still get our reps in. But I noticed like for her, like they don't have that. They have
No.
a packed crowd and a packed house. And so it was just so much fun to watch. And so once I saw that and it hooked me with her specifically, with Rhea Ripley, I was like, I'm
Yeah.
I'm sold.
You were
I was
hooked.
like, I can because I could completely relate to a lot of what she was doing and how she was kind of blazing a trail for women that want to be in all black, want to be super strong, want to be this just like, don't mess with me
Mhm.
feeling. And she was so strong, but she was beautiful.
Yes,
She's
absolutely.
absolutely gorgeous. And she owned that very strong femininity
Mhm.
that I feel like can be, toxic for a lot of people, especially now. But she was strong. She was beautiful. She was confident. And it was just amazing to
Mhm.
see. And I saw that going into, watching like the Unreal documentary.
Yeah.
I got to see that from a lot of the other female wrestlers because that's not to knock any of them. They're all extremely athletic and they're all gorgeous. Every single one of them is gorgeous in their own right and strong in their own right. And every costume they walk out in, you can tell that they have so much pride in that. And they all look great. Like you
Oh
can see
yeah.
someone like Rhea who's in all black, need someone like Charlotte Flair who's in all
Oh
pink.
yeah.
And you're
Bedazzling.
just
Just
like, you look amazing though,
yeah.
because you see him, you're like, you're gorgeous and you're strong and you own that. And especially like Becky Lynch too. She was one of mine that I was like, she came out in a fur coat, and I was like, yes, because it was just awesome because they owned it. It didn't matter
Mhm.
what they came out in, if they had like feather wings or,
Yeah.
shades that covered most of their face, like it didn't matter. Or, Bianca Belair with that insane braid. Like it didn't matter what they came out with. They came out being like, this is me, take it or leave it because I love it. And absolutely admired that.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so it sold me completely on that aspect. And so then in like the men's division and stuff like that, you talking about, like CM Punk and getting to know a little bit more about him, I was like, he's cool.
Yeah.
I was like, he's a good dude. And like John Cena, I'd always heard that he was a great guy with like
Yeah.
how he was in the Fast and Furious franchise and what is it, Peacemaker? And
Peacemaker,
how he had done a lot more acting
he's
and
done a
how
lot of different
and
things.
everybody's always said that he was so nice, like on set. And again, watching that Unreal documentary and seeing how Cena would go and talk to these women wrestlers and encourage them and lift them up and be like, that was amazing. And he was so nice and how
Yeah.
involved he was with Make a Wish. And just seeing, I was
He
like,
holds the record for most Make-A-Wish.
these are amazing people.
Yeah.
Like these are entertainers for the public, yes, but they are amazing people that are just wanting to create something that people can watch and be entertained by and relate to and grow with. And so
Mhm.
I immensely got a lot more respect for WWE, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm in it. I was like, all right, let's do this. And then when I found out that, you and your family were going to go see the WWE event on Saturday and y'all asked me to come, I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was actually pretty excited. I was like, this is actually pretty sick. I said, why not? Because I've never been to anything like this. I've been to concerts, I've been to, football games and stuff like that
Yeah.
with like very high crowds and everything like that. A lot of sporting events and
Mhm.
concerts, but never something like this. So I was like, absolutely. And when I tell you, it blew my family's mind to find out I was going to this because my dad was talking about, what he's got going on this week and this weekend because he had
Yeah.
taken my nephew. And so he was like, yeah. And I said, yeah, don't forget, I'm going to a WWE match on Saturday. And he went, that is insane to me because it was something that we didn't grow up with. But he was
Yeah.
like, that's so cool. Like, let me know how it is. And I've gotten to talk to like my cousin Riley about it and tell
Mhm.
her about the wrestlers and stuff. And she was like, oh my gosh, you're a WWE fan now. And I was like, I am because I get it. I totally get why they do what they do and the athleticism. It's athlete to athlete, just like in any sport. I can recognize certain things that they do, and I'm like, no, I know how you're feeling, man, because I know how much your sport means to you.
Yeah.
Like when I watch college football or anything like that, I'm understanding, like,
The
I get
psychology,
it.
the
I
human
get what
aspect.
you're thinking. I get how you feel the pressure. I get what's on the line for you right now and where you think you went wrong, where you think you can go better. And so it was just something that I could heavily relate to. It made me feel close to like sports again.
Mhm.
And so it was just such a nice feeling. And yeah, I was hooked on it ever since, for sure.
Yeah, I remember when we first saw the Unreal. And thanks for that, by the way. That was I didn't know your dad had encountered Andre the Giant at South Plains Mall of all places
Mhm.
because he used to.
We saw him like walking,
Yeah.
but it's kind of hard not to see
Oh yeah,
Andre
he
the
was a
Giant
giant.
walking
He
somewhere.
was the eighth wonder of the world, and
Mhm.
he actually was a big prominent part of Texas wrestling, part of the territory days, because there was a wrestler by the name of Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. He was. I was listening to a podcast of his episode he was on years ago, and he was talking about when he mentioned Lubbock, Amarillo, all these different over at West Texas A&M up the road that produced that university produced a lot of professional wrestlers.
Yeah.
So they would get into the funk air and the funk territory, and Andre the Giant was the attraction. He was the
Yeah.
main event. So all the younger wrestlers would drive him from town to town to town to town. And Andre the Giant is notorious for being obviously larger than life, but a massive drinker. So, they would go to all these haunts here in Lubbock, Texas, and here walks in this giant, literal
Yeah.
giant,
Literal.
and the stories they're just so because they'd go to like Roswell, Hobbs, Tucumcari, all these different places, podunk towns. They're not New York City. It's not the Garden. It's not Boston. It's not Toronto. It's not L.A. But these small little territory towns, and I just thought that was so cool when I would hear about
Yeah.
that because it's like, wow, like who would have known? Who would have
Well, yeah.
think?
Well, it shows that you can make an impact and it doesn't
Hmm.
have to be in a huge city to
It
do it.
doesn't. It really doesn't. And when you were describing Rhea Ripley, how you related to her across the board, I was thinking like, everything you said about her, I like about her too. I think that she's a very much that's who she is from what I know of her. Like she's just that way, and that's great. Like Stone Cold Steve Austin, CM Punk, Bret Hart, the guys that I like, they've described, at least on the interviews I've seen, where what you see on television is basically an extension of who they are
Yeah.
as a human being. And so, I wasn't an athlete in college or high school, but in the past 5 years that I've got into racing and so forth, I do kind of amplify my personality up. It's like I do turn into somebody else, and it's a very fascinating thing for me. It was very fascinating for me to experience because
Well,
I did
because yeah.
notice.
Well, and it's a different
Yeah,
side of yourself
it
that you
was,
didn't know was
and it
there.
is.
And so, yeah, and it comes out. And
Yeah,
to me, I always call it like, before it was just so overly said now, but it's essentially going into beast mode
yeah,
because you don't realize until you're out of it that
yeah.
you're like, oh my
I
gosh,
was doing that
I am worn out.
when we did our Deca Fit race back in Austin a few years ago. There was one point. I think you were. It was right after you did the farmer's carry, and you were exhausted.
Yeah,
You
because
remember
some
that?
chicks took my weights.
So we were doing this
So
Deca
she
Fit.
made me
Look
get
it up.
behind, and I had to do double the weight,
Yeah, you had
which
to
I
do.
had not been training with.
Yeah, she hadn't been training with that.
So it made me mad.
You were
I was gassed at
you were
that
gassed
point.
out, and so I had to do the 25 cal echo bike, which I'm used to it. But then I had to run because we were rotating who would do the obstacle and who would run. And you were like, I can't do it. I can't do it.
Well, I
So I
told you,
got
I said,
yeah,
because we would do it a
yeah.
station and then you're supposed to run 2 laps, but we would each run one.
Hmm.
And so this time, because again,
You
I
were
was
gone.
doing double the weight that I was normally doing on these farmers carries. So I was completely gassed because essentially I also had to make up time
Yeah.
because she was in my way too. And so I had to
There's
run,
video. And you
had to
did it.
run, do farmers carry with
Yeah.
double the weight. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I am taxed. Can you please do this next
Yeah.
lap? And then because I knew I had the next station,
Hmm.
I had the throwovers.
Yeah.
And so I was like, can you please like, do the
Well, when
next
I
one?
did
Because
that
I
station,
can't.
you did that and you were resting. I ran and this is where the professional wrestler, the would-be professional wrestler in me came out. I was roaring. I was running like a madman, but it was who I was. Like that
It was an extension of
intrinsic
you.
extension of who I am was just I'm running through the Austin Convention Center, whatever it's named, and I'm running like a madman, a beast. I'm hooting, I'm hollering, I'm having a good old time. I look crazy. I think your aunt and cousin saw me, and I saw them, and I'm like, you know, and I didn't care because I was like, I was in the moment. I was drawing from the crowd there. I was drawing from the other athletes there because it was like, okay, this is fun. Same thing happened to me at AT&T Stadium. You just those lights, the music. I
It
mean,
gets to you.
it gets to you,
Hmm.
and it took me to a whole new level of just mindset. I'll never forget the moment I was at. It was my first AT&T race, and the last thing I had to do was the burpees, the deck of
Which
burpees.
always is.
And I was taxed, but I started to what they call in professional wrestling, I hulked up. Now, for those that hulk, it's you shake, you go, like that. I hulked up. I didn't think about it. I just did it.
Right.
And but it was that way of just trying to just every ounce of energy that I had just it's coming out.
Yeah.
And I pushed through those last burpees like nothing, and I was tired. And I laughed about that. I still do because it's just like that's the would-be professional wrestler in me because I grow up watching it. And yeah, I've been asked throughout my entire life. Matthew James. My name's James Matthew, so I get called both. But why don't you become a wrestler? And I seriously thought about it at times. You know, um,
I could see it for sure.
but ultimately it just I don't want to say it wasn't meant to be. I just never
You never felt called to it.
I never had the opportunity to.
Yeah.
It was not like
Like this
it's,
perfect window that was
yeah,
your shot.
there was
Right.
never a window. There was
Yeah.
never like this window of opportunity that just says, "Hey, you know, I got a professional wrestling camp. You want to go?" You know, but yeah, sure. That never came across me.
Yeah.
Like that never was just something that was just dropped in my lap. And then as I got older and with social media, of course, I found out that Lubbock has a few dojos here for professional wrestling. There's several professional wrestling leagues here in Lubbock, which is great. I've been to their shows at Jake's. They put on phenomenal shows. Um, I've thought about it, but I think I'm just a little bit past that point.
Which you never know. It
Yeah,
could
you
be
never
something that
know.
comes up, but no, I can completely relate to you on that because
Yeah,
once I started seeing it, I was like, "Oh my goodness!" And your sister Jamie, and dude, major shout out to her. She's
yeah,
really got me like like wanting to seek it out more with how much she talked about it. But she was like, "Oh my gosh, Maddie, I could see you being a professional wrestler."
yeah.
And I thought about it, and I was like, "Dude, I would have so much fun doing that." But
It would be a blast.
I would love it because I know how to work a crowd.
Yeah.
Because I was used to doing that. I mean, we had pep rallies or stuff like that. I
Hmm.
mean, I was getting up on stuff and
Yeah.
yelling at the crowd, yelling at people, like because it's about them too, as
Hmm.
much as it is us doing, the sport or whatever. It's about them that come here to support because it makes an environment so different.
Yeah.
Like I was talking about earlier, if it was a full house, that was the best my stats were because I was
Yeah.
lit up, I was
You drew from
excited,
it.
and you could hear how people were screaming. And a lot of my friends were like, cheerleaders and stuff. So I would hear them. They would stand on the sidelines on the back, and so anytime I go up to serve, I would hear them being like, "Let's go, Maddie, kick some
Yeah.
ass!" And like I would hear them behind me, and it was just so much more fun. And then we even got so big, like our drum line from band was at our games, and
Wow.
they would stand over and they would be drumming in between, and it was like the gym was vibrating. And it was so much fun. And so I thought about that and I was like, I bet that's how it is in WWE crowd. And
Yeah.
I was like, I
It
would
is.
absolutely love it. And I
Yeah.
was like, I could do this, but I realized one, I don't like to lose. I really don't. And so if that was something
uh,
that was required of me for a, particular story or a title opportunity or something and I lost, I would have a lot of really testing moments in that because I would not
yeah.
really do well with that.
But
I bet
there's
I
the
would in
beauty.
the
There's a beauty to
I
that,
bet
though.
there is. And after I watch, that there's a purpose to it all. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I could get more behind that and end up dealing with it and just essentially, putting my pride out of the way.
Yeah.
But what I really realized is these girls are extremely athletic and they're doing a lot of things that I can't do. I mean,
Hmm.
I have a hypermobile knee that has like little to no cartilage left, and so I am prone to knee dislocations only in my left leg, and I will never risk my body like that. I
Yeah.
couldn't because if somebody made my knee go out,
That's it.
I would unleash.
Yeah.
There's nothing that would upset me more than having to go through the rehab that I have to go through every time it
Hmm.
happens and the strength that I would lose and all that. And so I don't ever want to put myself in a position to have another dislocation again.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I can't unless I were to get it completely reconstructed and have like in writing that it will never go out again. That would be the only way that I would dip my toe into that.
Hmm.
But other than that, absolutely not.
I'm the same
I've
way.
got too many injuries for that game and how they flip
Yeah.
and roll over stuff. I'm like, I just can't do that anymore.
I know that I'm still in great shape um, for being 41 years old,
Oh yeah,
but
well, we're both very highly athletic
yeah,
individuals. That's just a different
that's a whole
level.
different
Having to do
beast.
a front flip off of a rope? No.
No, I would have to become like, we call it gimmicks, and my character. I guess my persona, my style would probably have to be like a brawler, because I'm not going to be able to do flips like
Yeah.
Gerard Evans. I'm sorry if got your name wrong there, sir, but I can't do stuff like that. That's a
Yeah.
tremendous.
And
That is
he's
a high
amazing.
flyer, like the stuff that
Oh
Penta
yeah.
does.
Oh, and dive like through the
Dragon
ropes into
Lee,
the
Rey
crowd
Mysterio.
is
Yeah,
just
like
insane. And I'm like, I can't. I only could if I hadn't have done volleyball beforehand. If I hadn't gotten so
yeah.
beaten up and everything and having like the confidence, like how a lot of
Hmm.
them are to do flips and stuff like that. I mean, like I said, I would have to be like solely like a ground game person and I
Yeah,
could
I could
lift
see that.
people, but
You'd be a
mine would be
powerhouse.
like, you touch my leg, we're fighting like 100%. We're going right now. But
Yeah, I think that in like who you are as a person, what I can see as a person, just but is you're strong. Um, you're very much got that. You would be like a Rhea character because that's what she can do some really great things,
yeah,
but she is just a
she
powerhouse, and
is.
it's a very believable. Just much you're a powerhouse in your own right with what you can do, off camera with at the gym and so forth, and what you've done and what you accomplished in volleyball. And I still think that with professional wrestling, it's always, I think for me, it would always linger what if. I
Yeah.
try not to dive into that, um, but I I think about all this, and I've said this before about professional wrestling, and I will die on this hill. I think professional wrestling is the greatest form, all around form of entertainment in the world because of what it incorporates: music, storytelling, sports, athleticism,
Psychology. Yeah.
psychology, storytelling. I think it is the greatest all around form of entertainment in the world because it hits all the beats. Music, especially. Like, you
Yeah.
cannot go to a sporting event. I'm watching it on television, whether it's a football game or a basketball game, and then suddenly I'm going to hear The Undertaker's theme. I'm going to hear John Cena's theme. I'm going to hear Triple H's theme. I'm hearing wrestling themes in this day and age because you said it earlier about how people like to knock on it. And I remember growing up, even as a little boy, as a teenager, as an adult, people would crack at it. And I'm like, okay, I get it. But the funny thing about pop culture, the funny thing about, like, comic books were the same way for me. I get,
Yeah.
oh, you read comic books, what it, and now it's like everybody likes comic book characters. Everybody likes this, and that. And pro wrestling, I feel, has crossed over so much into the mainstream that, yeah, you don't hear too many people really knocking it
You really don't. I think
as
because now they're
much.
starting to understand it now
Yes, which
because
is
it's
great.
so readily available
Hmm.
from, Monday Night Raw and the Unreal documentary
It is.
series. I feel like for people now that can understand who these wrestlers are as
Yeah,
people, as individuals, it makes it to where they can relate even more of being like, oh my gosh, they go through this,
yeah.
they feel this way. They have anxiety, they struggle with
Oh
performance
yeah,
based affection and things like that. And so yeah, I think it's a huge thing. And of course, we're talking about WWE and all that just to say there's all different sports. There's
yeah.
all different, realms of athleticism and wellness. And these wrestlers take care of themselves. Like they
Yes,
are
they
the
do.
cream of the crop in what they do. And they are immensely intentional about how they take care of themselves. Their workout regimens are wonderful. I follow some of what Rhea does, and I'm like,
Yeah,
we kind of we kind of do the same
yeah.
things. And
Y'all
I'm like,
do.
we should work out together. But I see them and they do the same stuff that we do. They get
Hmm.
up, they have a certain time that they, want to make sure that
Structure.
they eat, want to make sure that they stretch, want to make sure they're going in an ice bath or, red light therapy, heat saunas, whatever it is. And then they go get a workout in, they stretch out, they are going to work, being these highly athletic people for a majority of the entire year.
Yeah,
There's not really a wrestling off season. So there are
there
these
isn't.
people that are on the road and having to combat, lack of sleep and lack of seeing their loved ones, as frequently as they can. And they've got, a lot of them are moms
Yeah,
and dads.
that's one
And
of the
so they've
things
got,
now. Yeah,
their children to think about. So they're
and
doing
always
all
has been
these
a thing.
things that everyday people that are not professional wrestlers go through
Yeah.
and have to think about no matter what it is. Professional wrestling is their job. So they have to make sure that they are prioritizing all of their goals outside of this job, which is their
Hmm.
health, their wellness, their well being. I mean, like we saw in the other documentary, like Cody Rhodes took some time off and he was in yoga classes
Yeah,
because he wanted to improve his game. He wanted to ground himself. He wanted to make sure he was staying well rounded. And they're just people. They are.
yeah.
They're these awesome
They're
athletic
great.
people that make the same choices every day that you can make as well.
Yeah, I got to see a lot of that working in TSA when I get to see them up close and personal, like through Lubbock, and then especially when I was in Seattle, I saw tons of them go through the checkpoints and stuff. And I didn't fan out. I didn't turn into a fanboy because I was working and I
Yeah.
wanted to be professional,
Well,
but
and they're just being a
and they're just
person.
being a person. I didn't
Yeah.
want to, I said hi to a few of them, and in a
Yeah.
low key moment, I would say, hey, I'd be like, hey, just want to say, man, I appreciate what you do. And that's
Yeah.
one of the first things, if not, I tell all of them, is that I appreciate what you do because of what you just said. They put themselves through so much in
Hmm.
terms, just everything for our entertainment.
Yeah.
And it was crazy to see working at the airport when you'd have the overzealous fans
Oh,
that would
yeah.
just, here's my action figure, here's sign this, and they'd hound them. And there were a few times I had to take it upon myself. I was like, shoo, they're getting their
They're
bag, they're
traveling.
traveling,
Yeah. They're
you
just
know,
doing what everybody else
they're
at the
doing,
airport is
they're
doing.
trying to find a rental car. Remember when Seamus was coming through the Lubbock airport one time, and this big dude,
He is big.
he's like, hey fella, the rental car's at? And I'm like, oh yeah, man, it's right over here to the right, man, through that door. I'm like, okay, thank you. And I'm like, that's a bad Irish
I was
accent,
like,
by the way.
wow.
Bad Irish accent,
Oh,
but
I
it's
think I heard a unanimous eye roll of all
oh yeah,
my ancestors
yeah. I
over in
just I just
Ireland.
insulted her entire
Yep, my
but
entire lineage.
your entire lineage. But um, I when I got to meet these individuals when I had the opportunity, you just say thank you, and just and that's it.
Yeah,
I mean, I didn't here
just treat them like a
sign my
person.
action figure or whatever. They're human beings at the end
Yeah,
of the day. They hurt. The injuries they go through is probably one of the reasons too. Going back to why I didn't do it is because I'm not too sure I could withstand some of the, especially the neck stuff. We just had a
yeah,
wrestler, Big E Langston. He had to retire due to a broken neck,
yeah,
and
yeah. Because it's not like they're landing on
oh
pillows.
no, they're landing. He landed,
These are
unfortunately.
choreographed matches, but they are real hits.
They're hit, and he unfortunately landed on his head and
Yeah,
broke
it
his
happens
neck.
because accidents
And
happen just like any sport.
yeah, and so in this, I was thinking about this the other day with that guy when I read his post on Instagram, and I thought, man, that's because his training style. He was a former collegiate football player, stocky dude, power lifter, trained with
Oh,
Cena.
he's already got a sensitive neck.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so but I think that's what saved his life is because I think to a lesser man that just wasn't because his traps are
Oh,
huge, his
he's
neck's huge,
conditioned.
he's
Yes.
conditioned. I think to a lesser individual, you know, I'm not so sure that that person would be alive or paralyzed. I mean,
Yeah.
God bless the dude. He's still around. He's transitioned out of professional wrestling and doing more sports shows. And I believe he was on the animated, Spider-Man series doing voiceovers. And so, because unfortunately, like any other sport, there's always just
Yeah.
unfortunate incidents
Everybody's
and
got to
deaths and
stop
stuff.
doing
And
it at
so,
some point.
when you see that, and you catch your breath and realize, okay, maybe I shouldn't go online and trash these people because there was a botch or something like that. Because at the end of the day, they're still humans.
Yeah. And it
I
still
mean,
gets to them like it does any of us. And
yeah,
it's a real injury. And they go through, all the things that you go through. Oh my gosh, am I going to recover from this? Am
yeah,
I going to be able to come back? Well, what am I going to look like now? Am I still going to
hmm
be able to move the same? Because it was all the things that I thought when I would get injured.
yeah,
So yeah, when I saw like when Rhea got actually hurt, like her arm,
yeah,
her
our
shoulder,
shoulder,
and all that, and the way she reacted to it, I was like, I get it.
yeah,
I completely get it, dude. Of when you're just like, what just happened? I was fine 2 minutes
hmm
ago, and then because of this little
just like that,
accident, now I'm in a lot of pain and looking what to do next. And so
yeah,
yeah, a lot of them go through it, get the medical attention that they need, and kind of like Braun Breaker with hernia. Oh my gosh, had to
yeah,
get surgery immediately. I mean, that
it's that
is
quick,
it's something that can just turn.
hmm
And so,
and
but
that's
they come
something,
back and you admire them for it
yeah,
because again, they're just like these wonderful comeback stories of an athlete to where, I had doctors tell me I wasn't going to play anymore. They told me to give it up because they were like, this is a lot on your body and you're getting hurt all the time. And I'm like, but I love what I do. And they're like, you need to seriously consider stopping. And I said, you need to seriously consider a different profession.
yeah.
And I walked out
Speaking like a true
and
professional wrestler, right
and
here, a
so
true
I
athlete,
came I
true
came
athlete.
right back and ended up doing really well after that season because it's usually the people that tell certain athletes you need to stay inside the lines.
Yeah,
This could happen. Then they're like, nope, thank you though, and they push past that because they know their own limit and how far they can go. So
yeah,
like we said, all this to say, we're super excited to go catch some
yeah,
professional
absolutely.
wrestling on Saturday. I'm stoked for the first time of me going, so I'm super pumped to see it.
Who do you want?
And
Who do you want to see before we go?
I want to. Ooh, okay, I'm gonna do five. I feel like we should do
Let's
five.
do five. Let's do
Okay,
five.
five people that I want to see on Saturday. From because I know you said like a list of people that have
They're
been shown advertised
advertised.
to show
They
up,
haven't released the full card
but who I would love to see, which I don't think I'm going to see like half of these, but I would love to see them, would be Rhea Ripley, of course, which I know she's scheduled to appear. CM Punk, of course, he's scheduled to appear. I would love to see Charlotte Flair. I'd love to see Becky Lynch, and I would love to see. Honestly, ooh, that last one's kind of hard because I'm like, well, but okay, I'll go. The last one I would want to see would be either Seth Rollins or Roman
I
Reigns.
was gonna say because I was
I
like
was like,
looking at
that
the
would
camera
be
like I know what she's.
that would be it because yeah. But in terms
um.
of like, it would be more
Yeah.
females than it would the guys. But yeah, I would really enjoy to see any one of them.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I've
who's
been
your five?
my five. Definitely CM Punk because I haven't seen him perform live yet. Punk, Rhea Ripley. Haven't seen her perform live yet. So Punk, Rhea, Cody. I haven't seen
Oh my
Cody.
gosh, Cody! I forgot about Cody.
Cody would be
Okay,
great.
yeah,
Let's throw in. I like to see Obafemi. He's the
yeah,
newest cat, but
I
that
agree.
dude, I will right now, right here on YouTube, say that that dude will probably be the next big thing.
Agreed.
Um,
Who's your last one?
ooh, I feel like I'm letting.
Come on, you want to see Dirty Dom?
That's what I'm gonna say. Dirty Dom, so I can boo that dude because I think he is the best heel in the business right now. He's one of them top two. He's just so he's good at his job. So good,
He
I want to
is.
boo the hell out of him.
Yeah, it's
You know,
entertainer.
so
So yeah, so that's who we're planning to see. So
yeah,
we'll
hopefully
definitely be looking on the AlchemyPhyt Instagram page because we'll
we'll
probably be
post stuff.
showing some stuff from it and everything like that, and talk about it a little bit afterwards and kind of what we saw from a personal trainer wellness nutrition standpoint of like what we saw in them
Hmm.
in terms of just athletic ability, wellness, and fitness.
Maybe we'll do a
And so we'll do, yeah,
vlog,
we can
something
vlog
like
it
that.
to be like, oh my gosh, because I know I'm gonna be losing my mind, and it'll probably take my voice a while because since I damaged my vocal cords, if
This is what I
I
want to see. I
if
want
I
to see
yell a little too
this.
much, I usually can't talk. So like when I come home from Notre Dame football games, it takes me a good 4 days to get my voice
I can
back.
attest.
But Notre Dame, I go insanely psycho on because I absolutely love going to those football games. But yeah, so thanks for listening, guys. And if you are wrestling fans, definitely let us know in the comments. And if you are headed to the show on Saturday, or if you're going to be, because we're going to be in Dallas for SmackDown on Friday,
Yeah,
right?
Friday they're gonna be in SmackDown. And
So
Friday in
for
Dallas.
today, I guess when this
Yeah,
video is coming out, because it'll be on Friday. So if you guys are going to SmackDown, let us know and let us
yeah.
know who. If you're going on Saturday, let us know and who you want to see, or how you became into WWE, or if you're not a fan of it but you've been watching because we're fitness and wellness professionals, go try it out. Ask us questions, anything like that. But that's all we have for you guys, and I hope y'all have a blessed whatever day it is for you that you're watching this, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. Adios.